Hello, everyone. Welcome to a live episode of Recipe for Reality. We are live, so if you're watching, please give us some questions, give us some comments, whatever you want to give. We're talking about a lot today. We're going to recap the most recent week in Big Brother, which last time we talked was only 6 days ago, but wow, has a lot happened in 6 days. Bachelorette, not as much, but we're down to our final guy for each girl, so like we could talk about that, even though the previews have made it very obvious what's going to happen. And then we were going to talk about the big topics today, which are Survivor and Amazing Race cast assessments. It's easy because Survivor is 43, Amazing Race is 34, so it's just like the two numbers swapped, which is easy to remember from a number standpoint.
Oh,
But
that's
great
true.
cast all around, and some familiar faces on that Amazing Race cast assessment. So before we get to the cast assessment, so let's talk about Big Brother real quick, just because the gameplay, it was a little straightforward. Alyssa went home. It was a tie vote, which Brittany, we knew the whole week, was trying to like get blindside Taylor, and her plan was to let Turner give a sympathy vote to Alyssa. But Turner's a very smart player. You know, he may not be managing the jury as well, but he's a very smart player in terms of knowing exactly where the tide's going, and he knew that to make everyone else happy, he would vote Alyssa out. But because Brittany still tried to follow up with that plan, it ended up being a tie vote. Didn't really matter because Monty broke the tie anyway to save Taylor. But that's the big news: is that Monty saved Taylor because they're doing the
Oh boy,
nasty
oh
in the
boy.
HOH room. And before we get into that, don't slut shame Taylor, people. Don't slut shame Monty. They're cooped up
Oh,
in a house for so long. Also, we should not have slut shamed Alyssa or Kyle either. And I did not, you did not, but some people online did. So just like let these people be people, single people in the house. Let them do what they want. But Zach, what are your thoughts on all this that's been going down? The tie vote and the new showmans. How do you feel?
as far as the tie vote go, you know what? I'm going to talk about the. I'm also just getting my names down
Oh yeah,
as we
sorry.
speak. No,
Multitasking,
it's
yeah.
okay. I'm going to speak on the showmance first.
Okay.
So I think that I'm agreeing. I think it's just like it's been how I can't remember how many days
At least
off the
it's
top
a
of
whole
my
summer.
head.
You know, it's a whole summer pretty
It's
much. They've
yeah,
got like
it's
10 days
been
left.
basically a whole summer. And because it's been a whole summer, I mean, you got to remember that they're feeling some type of way.
And
They're
they
both
got
attractive
alcohol
people in the
the other
house.
night, which is
They
also
got
part of it too.
alcohol, And listen, at this point, also, I don't want to say that it's strategically, it's a strategic move or it's gameplay. However, if it is strategic, I mean, right now, if you look at the place that they're in, Taylor knows that Turner and Monty are tight. She's trying to fit, and from the standpoint of Monty, I mean, he knows that Taylor probably doesn't want to sit up there against Turner himself, so he's got to make sure that if it comes down to it, and it is her and Turner and Monty in the final three, that she's gonna take him over Turner because truthfully, Monty's probably the worst pick to go up against, the worst pick to go up against in the final two, in my opinion, because he's got the Michael hit, which is pretty much, in my opinion, right now the big move of the season. However, Taylor is also not. I mean, they seem to both kind of think that each other is the bigger target up against Turner, when in reality, I'd say Turner's probably just as big of a target as the other two of them. I think it's a
Yeah.
good move. I think it's enough to kind of, again, we're not trying to slut shame. We're not trying to
No.
do anything. They're two attractive people in a house with alcohol and no other human contact for however many days.
Yeah.
Let them do what they have to do. You know what I
I,
mean?
I agree. I
Um,
agree with you because having a showmance like that's a guaranteed final two pretty much. Because like only in Big
right,
Brother All Stars have we seen a showmance cut another showmance, and it's because Janelle was doing it strategically to Will.
right.
And I think in this sense, it's like if you get to final three, and we kind of know the final three because this week the way things are going, Monty won veto, and I know that's a spoiler, but if you're looking at live feeds, I mean Brittany is the target, especially because of the tie vote, which we didn't really talk much about, but like Brittany is making herself a bigger target by the day, and I think Taylor would like to sit
Right.
next to Brittany at the end, but I think it's pretty clear Monty is going to get rid of Brittany because in their eyes, Taylor thinks Brittany's an easier beat than Turner. I think everyone thinks that. But in Monty's
Yeah.
eyes, he's looking at well, Brittany's not going to take me to the end. And Brittany has won comps before. Everyone here has won comps. Alyssa was the only one who didn't win a comp. So, like, honestly, Alyssa's probably the person you should have been bringing to the end, but she had jury votes. And I think that's another thing is they're looking at jury votes. And in their eyes, Turner has the jury votes. Looking on paper, Turner does not. Because I really think Monty
No, I don't think
beat him. And we'll go through every
I
final
think
two
the
scenario
only
in a sec. But I would like to do that in just a sec because I think
Right.
it'd be interesting to bap it out. But I think Turner loses either way. The thing is, in their eyes, Taylor's looking at it as both those guys have a good shot at beating me, whereas she has a better chance of beating Brittany. But in Monty's eyes, he's thinking if Brittany wins, she's taking Taylor. If Taylor wins, she could take Brittany over me, and he doesn't want to be screwed. So in taking Turner at the end, I think that's a smart move for Monty because Monty now Turner is going to pick Monty over Taylor. Taylor is going to pick Monty over Turner. So I think Monty, by winning veto and getting rid of Brittany, is guaranteed final two. I think if he's keeping Turner, if he's keeping Brittany and getting rid of Turner, he's not guaranteed that final two because Brittany, all she has to do is win that final HOH. So let's just say hypothetically that Monty gets rid of Brittany and it's Monty, Brittany, and Turner. Or Monty, Taylor, and Turner. Let's look at these final twos real quick. So let's go first, Taylor versus Turner, which I think is the least likely because I think either of them bring Monty. But in the case that it is, let me just write down these jurors. It's Indy, Joseph, Jasmine, Kyle, Terrence, Michael, Alyssa, and then Brittany, and let's say now the third. So between Taylor and Turner, Indy, I think votes Taylor. Correct?
Say that again. I lost you for a second.
Sorry, we're Taylor versus Turner. I'm going through the final three. So let's say Taylor and Turner. Which is
Yes.
I think Indy votes Taylor. I think Jasmine votes Taylor. I think Joseph votes Taylor.
Yes.
I think Kyle.
Kyle's. Well, hold on. I think that Kyle votes Turner because they're boys, and I'd say that Kyle
votes Turner as well, right?
Which is ridiculous, but yes.
I think Michael votes Taylor.
Michael votes Taylor.
Alyssa.
I think Alyssa votes Taylor.
She's heard about Turner. Brittany would vote for Taylor, and Monty. Let's say Taylor cuts him, he votes for Turner. Maybe Turner cuts him,
and vice versa. It doesn't really matter because in that scenario, Taylor wins
7-2 or 6-3. So Taylor beats Turner easily. Now let's look at Monty and Turner. Let's say Monty wins the final HOH. I think he would take Taylor. So let's say Turner wins the final HOH, takes Monty. Indy, between Monty and Turner, I think votes Monty. Jasmine, I think would also vote Monty. Joseph,
no, I think
right?
Taylor. No, I think Jasmine votes Taylor. I think those first three.
Monty and Turner.
Oh, sorry.
I think they're all Monty, right? It's okay.
Yeah, I think for the most part, every one of them is Monty. I don't think the only one who might not be Monty is Kyle, and that might
going
be
in order. So yeah, like Indy, Joseph, and Jasmine all vote Monty over Turner. Kyle, does he go Turner or Monty? I think he would still. I
think he goes Turner. Oh no,
really?
I think he goes Turner. I think he goes Turner.
Terrence, I think would go Monty. Monty. Okay, so that's a switch. Michael, I think he would go Monty. Yes, over Turner.
I don't know. I think he goes Turner. I think he goes Turner. Here's the thing: is that
LGBT thing? I think is
but I think that the whole.
Okay, let's say
I think that Michael saw Turner as way more of a threat than Monty for a multitude of reasons. Unless something has changed in jury, I think that Michael votes for Turner. Yeah, I think he votes for Turner.
Michael votes for Turner, so that's 2 votes for Turner from Kyle and Michael. Alyssa, Monty, and Turner. I think she goes Monty, right?
Yeah.
I think she's.
I know. I think she's burned. I think she's burned by Turner, and that's gonna hurt
Brittany. At that point, Brittany, it doesn't really matter because I think Brittany would vote for Monty or Turner. It doesn't matter because Taylor's voting for Monty. So Monty versus Turner. Turner only gets 2, maybe 3 votes. So that's like another 6-3 vote. So I think Turner loses either way. But now here's the hypothetical, which I think is most likely to happen as long as Turner doesn't win HOH, and that is Monty and Taylor. Now let's go seriously through this. Indy's first. Who does Indy vote for, Monty or Taylor?
Taylor.
I think she votes Taylor. Okay, so that's 1
Taylor.
vote Taylor. Joseph, this is tough. He was his Monty's boy, but I think he would respect Taylor's
No, I
view.
think he votes Taylor.
Okay.
I think the thing with all of these is that you have to think about where Taylor was day one, week one, versus where Monty was day one, week one. They,
Yeah.
ironically enough, have about the same. Obviously, Monty has a couple more, but like they both have two HOHs. They both have. He has two vetoes over Taylor's no vetoes,
Yeah.
but
But she has
Taylor
this story.
has her story and her a million times sitting on the block and not being sent home. Like
Okay,
that
so
is I
yeah.
I think that a multitude are probably going to vote for Taylor. There are a
Well,
couple
let's go
who
through
don't,
this.
but
Yeah. So
I think
in
that Indy, Joseph, Jasmine is who we're up to.
Jasmine, we're up to
Jasmine votes
votes
for
Taylor.
Taylor.
Okay, so now we're at
Um,
Kyle. Kyle between Monty and Taylor. I think either way, Kyle's vote's so interesting because I don't know if he votes with his like I've learned changed as a person mentality or you were closer to me in the house. Either way, I think he votes Monty here.
I think he
Um,
votes for Monty.
and I think Terrence votes Monty over Taylor. Correct?
Yes, because again, it doesn't make any sense, but sure enough, yeah, he does.
Michael
He even
votes.
said he wants another black man to win this game.
All right,
That's what
so
he
now
said, and I think that's going to
we're at 3-2 Taylor to Monty, but Michael I think votes Taylor. Correct?
Taylor 100%.
Yeah. So Taylor's now at 4-2. Alyssa, Monty, and Taylor. Which one does she go for? I don't know.
I would vote for Taylor if
Okay,
I were Alyssa because
let's put a
Monty is the
questionable
one
on
who
Taylor.
cut me.
Okay.
That
Brittany-
and when he didn't need to.
Brittany, Monty would be the one to get rid of Brittany, so Brittany would vote Taylor. And then Turner, depending on who cuts him, but let's say Turner votes Monty. That is a 6-3 vote. Taylor wins. And even if Alyssa being the questionable one, Kyle being a questionable vote, that's giving Kyle to Monty. So
Right.
if you look at it this way, Taylor beats Turner and Monty. Monty beats Turner. So the question is, the thing is, Turner doesn't win either way. And I think Taylor, if she
Right.
makes it to the end, wins either way, is what we're getting.
I
Just looking
I
at the
think-
jury now, not knowing how they might swim, because they could also have terrible final performances, as we've seen from people like Paul. But as it stands right now, Taylor wins in like a 6-3 or a 5-4 vote against Monty. Monty wins in like a 6-3 or 7-2 vote against Turner, and Taylor beats Turner in like a 7-2 vote. Is where we're getting at now.
Ironically enough, I truly think that Monty's best move this week is actually to vote out Turner, if I'm being honest with you. I think that taking Turner to final three, first of all, Brittany has no jury management. And
maybe Michael, but even then, I think
maybe
Michael would reward
no,
Michael.
I think and I think that even it's like maybe she has Alyssa from this last week, but she never will have Turner. She'll never have Jasmine and Indy and all of them. She'll never have Terrence. But
the risk is if Brittany wins the final HOH, she takes Taylor over Monty.
Sorry, but that's what I was going to say is that is it a risk? Like, yeah, but the risk of Brittany winning a comp versus Monty winning a comp is so low that he can make the choice at the end either way. Again,
True.
like Brittany has won competitions, but let's look at the competitions Brittany has won. She won when she was attached to Michael.
And then Stay or Fold, which Michael threw to her.
And then also, she won the competition Monty didn't end up competing in. So the reason why I think she's such a better choice is because A, you beat her no matter what. At least with Turner, there's a risk. Like, I don't know if I'd like Turner to win. I don't think he has enough of a case built for himself. But he has a better chance to win and sit in final two than Brittany does. So, but if you take yourself to the end with Taylor and Brittany, you have a pretty high possibility of winning final three. And like, sure, does Taylor maybe take Brittany if she wins part three? I think the answer truly is maybe, because to be honest with you, I think Taylor would rather there be, I think Taylor, again, is all about the story. There's the possibility that she cuts Monty as like the final nail in the coffin for her resume, but there is also the possibility that she still brings Monty to the end because that puts, once again, two African American Big Brother
Yeah, you
players in the
guarantee
final
another
two.
black winner, which is cool. Yeah.
And I think that in all fairness and in all really, I think Monty's winnability at the end of the game is the highest out of all four of them right now. The second being Turner in competitions, not necessarily not at the final, not in final two, but in order to get to the end and choose who you will. I would be very surprised.
Oh, I don't know if I froze or if you froze. Give me 1 second. I think Zach froze. Let me check the live stream. We're live, so anything could be happening. Let's see. Yeah, Zach froze. So I'm gonna text him real quick and see if he's okay. But yeah, I think what Zach's getting at is that Monty stands a better chance of beating Brittany in the final three competition. But where I'm coming from is that I think Monty isn't guaranteed to be taken by Brittany, whereas he's guaranteed to be taken to the end by Turner. So I think you bring the people in that you have the chance of beating, which is beating in the end or getting to the end with. And I think Monty's first priority is final two rather than winning that final comp. Because if he can surround himself with Turner and with Taylor, then either one of them is going to take him. He doesn't need to win that final comp. Whereas if it's Brittany and Taylor, he needs to win that comp to get Brittany. Stay live. I think my internet just bailed out. No problem, Zach. I will roll with you. I'm going to talk really quickly about Bachelorette. I know I'm segueing just because Zach isn't here, and I think Bachelorette's a little bit more predictable. We'll get into our Survivor and Amazing Race predictions in like 5 minutes, but I'm just going to talk about Bachelorette, and I just have to say it's so unfortunate that this season, and I think there's a reason why a lot of these guys are saying they're not ready for engagements. Half of this season was them having to pursue two women. And I think it was a fun experiment at first, but I think we're seeing now that because this season, a Bachelorette season is already so short that when you add in the fact that, that half of the season had to be focused on two different women rather than one, that makes the actual portion of the season where they're pursuing one woman even shorter. And that's why you see people like Avon second guessing, like, maybe I'm not ready for a marriage right now. People like Jason, people like Johnny. And you see that. And I think that's been one of the problems of the season is that these women are like, yo, why aren't you ready for an engagement? And people online are like, hey, you signed up for this. You should know that there's an engagement at the end of the road. But also, this is essentially half of a season because the first half of the season, you were pursuing two women, if that makes sense. So the fact that we're even seeing Eric having questions about committing to a relationship, I think says a lot about this expedited season. Hey, Zach, we're back. I just kind of summed up our thoughts on Big Brother because we are both in the same standpoint of Taylor beats both of them, Monty beats Turner, and Monty, it's just a question of competitions at the end. And I just figured, we're both on the same page. Let's segue to Bachelorette. Where I was saying that like a lot of people are on Twitter attacking some of these guys saying, well, you should have known what you were signing up for, because now we're seeing Eric kind of back up on the whole, I don't know if I'm ready to get engaged thing. We saw Avon say the same thing and get sent home. But you got to think also, because half of the season was the two girls pursuing all the men, they haven't really had the full season of like them pursuing the girls individually until the second half.
Right.
Like, I think this is a shorter season if we think about it, because the first season was so much about like you have to entertain both girls. And I think that's why we're seeing so many people at the end now be like, I don't know if I'm ready for an engagement, because they've really only been able to spend one-on-one time with them for how many weeks? Like
whatever.
Right. Which is why I think like Tino obviously hasn't had those doubts. And I think Rachel and Tino are going to get engaged and the drama is going to happen afterward. But with Eric now being Gabby's only choice and having those doubts as well, I think they're going to look back on the season and be like, wow, I shouldn't have made such a big deal about these guys who are not ready to get engaged, because this is such an expedited season. I think that's why this experiment, while as cool as it is going to prove to be flawed at the end of the day, because so many guys now have had so little time with these girls individually because they had to pursue both of them at the same time, that I think in retrospect, I think Rachel's going to regret sending Avon home for those reasons. I think Gabby's going to regret sending Jason home for those reasons, because they are in the mindset of, oh no, you have to be here for an engagement. When in reality, I think a lot of the guys are kind of coming to reality about
Right.
it too. So I think it's a double-edged sword. I don't think they're wrong in
Well,
being like, "Yo, you don't want an engagement? I'm going to send you home." That's how they're feeling. They should send him home. But also at the same time, I don't
right.
blame the guys for not wanting an engagement this early.
Well, and I guess that's the flaw of the show, right? Like you already, it's a lot to expect of people to be ready to be engaged at the end of like a like a month-long period. But then you take out pretty much half of that month in order to, make time and allotment for like getting to know both of them, and then you decide who you're going to be with, or you don't decide, they decide.
Yeah, because if we remember, Eric talked to both of them early on. He did
Right.
settle on I like Gabby more, but
Right.
there were a lot more Logans this season than we like to admit. It's just Logan kept that going later in the season.
Right.
But early on, a lot of these guys were pursuing both. Meatball
Right.
was pursuing both, and he's gone. But even some of them were there for
Meatball,
one or the other from the top. Like Tino was always there for Rachel. But even someone like Eric, yes, he's Gabby's last guy, but he at the beginning was talking to both of them. And I think
because
that's
that was
just
what the
the flaw
season
of the
was.
season.
That's what they wanted. They wanted guys who were going to be interested in both, and it just so happens that at the end, this is where they line up. But then you can't expect them to not have some sort of
reservations.
To not have some sort of reservation about hey, this is moved really fast, and it's moved even faster because we had to spend time with both of you, and we only just got to really get to know one another. I really do think that things with Tino are going to go downhill super fast.
Well, and it's funny because he's the only one who hasn't expressed those worries. It's her who's expressed the worries about his family, which I think is a bigger red flag than I don't know if I want to get engaged or just date. Because Eric, I think it's reasonable for him to be like, I don't know if I want to just date you. But then again, I do think because of the preview, I think they're going to be okay. I think they're going to be okay. I'm more worried about Tino and Rachel
going to be okay.
Because the red flags. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the red flags with Tino and his family are bigger than the red flags of Eric not sure if he wants an engagement or a relationship. Right. Because Eric is still all in either way. Tino is all in, but his family's not. I think that's a much bigger red flag for Rachel than Eric's is for Gabby. Because Gabby can talk to Eric and say, hey, listen, we don't have to get married right away, but I do really want to end this thing with an engagement. And he can say, okay, and get on one. Right. And maybe it's a little bit of peer pressure, but I think he loves her enough to say, you know what, if that's what you want, I do want to be with you forever. That's what I'll give you.
And
whereas
also,
Tino and Rachel, Tino's ready to give himself to Rachel, but Tino can't give his family, Tino can't sway his family if they're not able to be swayed.
Well, and what I said, I think it was at the end of the last episode, what I said was, what people forget is that an engagement doesn't mean getting married within the next year.
JoJo and Jordan took how many years after they got engaged?
They don't realize, of course breaking off an engagement is can be very embarrassing, but the expectation from the show isn't that you get married within a year. The expectation is that you get engaged at the end.
It's not Love is Blind,
And honestly, we have seen that the couples that do get engaged, Zach and Tayshia, Michelle and Nate, they take time after the show ends to discover whether or not they are actually compatible. And then unfortunately for those two couples, at least, we had them, they fit. Same thing with Blake and Katie. It's unfortunate because it's almost like the show should really stop trying to film as much as possible in such a short period of time and give it less guys and more room to breathe, because less guys and more room to breathe probably would result in a much more successful engagement. But that's what I think, I'm hoping at least for Eric and Gabby, because Gabby, I mean, in all the promos we're seeing for Dancing with the Stars, she seems great. She seems happy. I would almost bet that they do end up engaged.
And the fact that she's on it in the first place is a good sign.
Whereas I really think that this is going to end poorly for Rachel, because Tino is going to be like, let's do it, I'm all in. And then she's going to find some stuff out, because that's always what happens. It's always what happens.
And honestly, I don't know. I have not read any spoilers, but I don't even think the stuff is stuff. I think it's just the family. I really just think they're just not going to be accepting, and she's going to be able to.
I haven't read spoilers either, but also just Tino seems, forgive me for saying it, Tino seems a little scummy. He seems a little scummy. He seems like he's just in it for the good time, not the long time, if you know what I mean. And that, this is
it's the cockiness that I think gets me. I think he actually likes Rachel, but I think it's more cocky than it is. Yeah.
We've hit my ABC production rant, everybody. This is why I don't enjoy. This is why I always feel like ABC's production really just drives me crazy. Again, I've got nothing to lose. I'm not going on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. It's me, baby. What drives me crazy about the ABC producers is that they clearly just don't vet these guys enough. They don't vet these guys, or they pick purposefully to create drama and intrigue rather than successful love stories, which is why then when you head to Paradise, the people who go to Paradise, the ones who aren't meant to be with anybody, leave without someone. And the ones who are usually end up leaving engaged and successful and happy. You know, we had, unfortunately, Marissa and Riley, which we still don't really know the real reason why it ended. But we do know that it was, you know, enough to say, like, we need to be apart. But then you have Serena and Grocery Store Joe, who are, you know, they're strong and they're thriving, but they're out of the public now. Like, you know, you can still see them on Instagram.
Yeah, I
but
follow them.
Well, I mean, I follow them on Instagram, but like, there's no stories on Twitter about Serena and Grocery Store Joe. That being said, it's 4:58 on Sunday, and I'm sure by like 5 p.m. tomorrow there'll be a story because I said something. But that's what you know.
Oh no.
Okay, stop. That's just what happened.
Want that.
Who was who was the third couple from last year?
Mari and Kenny, which are also going strong.
And Becca and Thomas, who just got engaged. Like
congratulations.
There's a reason. Congratulations, Becca and Thomas. You did it, man. You earned.
I know they're listening.
Yeah, they're definitely listening. But like, that's what I mean. Paradise is always more successful because they try to bring on people who have already been through the process, but maybe the process just needs more time to actually marinate and find out, you know, like who is there for the right reasons. But literally, like, if there are only 10 men from the start and 1 or 2 go each week or each episode, then you finally have the, you know, whatever amount of people who are really getting A, the amount of time they deserve, and B, the ability to find out whether they're actually compatible, because this formula is old, it's tired, it's not working anymore. It's time to move forward. Mm-hmm. It's time to give it some. We can talk at the end of the season, you know, after the finale. But
next episode we will have seen the finale and we'll have seen the first episodes of Dancing with the Stars, Amazing Race, and Survivor, and we'll be right before the finale Big Brother, which is on a Sunday, which is a week from tonight, which is nice because it's like, I'm happy. You know, it's nice. We can kind of like digest everything that's going on and make the final predictions before Sunday. But
that's what I mean is like, it's not when my plea to the Bachelor producers, as per usual, is vet your contestants better and then also change your formula because it's just not working.
Yeah.
Like Fleiss, change it.
Yeah. And I'll say right now, they were promoting auditions for senior citizen bachelors and bachelorettes. I really like Grandpa John. He's a fun guy.
They've been promoting senior bachelor or bachelorette for the last 5 years.
Like, they got to do something with it at this point, right? I don't know. It is already 5 o'clock though. We've talked almost a half hour about the other 2 shows, but now let's segue into the shows that we haven't talked much about at all because they haven't started yet. But we're gonna do predictions on. And that is The Amazing Race 34 and Survivor 43. 34, 43. Flip the numbers around. Easy to remember. Zach, what would you like to start with? Survivor, Amazing Race. One's a bigger cast, one's a smaller cast, but one I think is more of like the topical hot thing because it's Survivor. But what do you want to talk about first?
We'll start with The Amazing Race. We'll get people waiting around for Survivor.
Cool. So Survivor is coming, y'all. We'll get there, but let's start with The Amazing Race. Let's just jump right in because I have the how many is it? 11. It might be actually more. Usually it's 11. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think it's 12 actually. 12 pairs for The Amazing Race. I'm gonna square my screen is what I almost just said. Share my screen there. All right, let's get to the nitty gritty. We're already here. How crazy! All we have here are pictures, professions, ages, and relationships. So that's all we're going off of, which is kind of fun. I'm not going to play these videos because I don't want to get copyrighted. But we have Asta, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing names wrong, Asta and Nina. They are engaged from California. Asta's 33, Nina's 34. It looks like they're in operations and business. Zach, first impressions. This is going to be pretty quick because we don't know much about any of these except for 2 pairs, which we know probably a lot. But
I like them. I I think they work well together.
Mm.
That's really all I got. I like this. This
I
is
know.
always so hard.
There's not much.
Preseason for Amazing Race is always so difficult because it's just like, yeah, they look like they're gonna be good.
They're not super young. They're not super old. I think they've got a good relationship. Obviously, they're engaged, but also like they don't look the most like physically like threatening. So like right now they're in my like mid to low range because we're gonna rank these at the end. So like I really don't know. It's hard to tell. Let's move on just because this is how we do it. Abby and Will, they are childhood sweethearts from Birmingham, Alabama. Abby's 24. She's a data scientist. Will is 25, an accountant. Both just from their jobs, very smart. But they are both very young. They both look physically fit, and they have a long-lasting connection. They're high school sweethearts or childhood sweethearts. So they've been together probably at least 6 or 7 years. Let's say they did it in high school, but they probably known each other a lot longer.
Right. I forgot to ask: Are we doing rankings yet, or are we waiting till?
We're gonna wait till the end and rank them, just preseason, cool. Just because I think it'll be fun just to see how along we are. But also we haven't seen anything, so it'll be hard to say. What do you think of these two?
I love them. I think that the Amazing Race, the only thing that you can really judge it by is judging by like connection, teamwork, and like comfortability with people. Yeah. So I actually think that they have the prowess to probably do really, really well because of how long they've known each other. But they also look like they're in shape, fit, and like are going to be able to have stamina, which is so important. So I think that they're going to do really well.
Moving on now to Aubrey and David. Aubrey's 29, dance studio owner. David is a 29-year-old helicopter mechanic. They're both ballroom dancers, though, from LA. I don't know if they're together or if they're just friends. I can't really tell. But if either way, I mean, ballroom dancing, it is partnership, which I think is going to help. But again, like I can't get a gauge on how athletic they are aside from the coordination of the ballroom dance world. What do you think?
I think, again, they look like they are. They obviously like have the partnership already, and they have clear stamina, and they have prowess about competition because of ballroom dancing. It's just a matter of like, the thing with I thought about this with ballroom dancing. There's usually a leader. So how do you go about determining a leader in something like this, where there's you kind of have to rely on one another, but you don't want there to be a leader. You know what I mean? So I think they have the prowess to do well and hope that they continue to show that they can.
Cool. And we know these two, Derek X and Claire. Derek is a 24-year-old product manager. Claire is an AI engineer. I always forget that because for us, they are Big Brother contestants. They are in a reality romance. That's what they call them. Not dating, a reality romance. From
reality romance.
I mean, we love them. So like we're a little biased. How are they going to do? I don't know, just because, again, they're more smart than they are physical. But Derek was just on the challenge, and he didn't do amazingly well, but he did well enough to where, like, he was still finishing those competitions. So I think they're going to be underestimated, despite being the popular pick probably for most people to win.
Right. I love DX and Claire. I think that they are going to do really, really well. This is not a social game, which is great for them. Not that they weren't great. Not that they weren't
good socially. No,
I thought that they were good socially, but now there's no real there's no alliance
threat.
They are each other's alliances. They're not much of a threat. They play their own game rather than having to rely on others, which is awesome. And I think that they're such a good team and that they're going to do so well. And they just want to bring Derek X back for everything, and I'm all on board.
Yeah, 3 CBS shows in the span of a year. And the thing is, we've never seen Claire and Derek as a couple on TV. We've only seen them as friends, and then their relationship blossomed in the jury house, and they didn't even show that on TV in the jury segments. They showed it. It was an announcement afterwards. So
he's one show away from beating your ultimate dream.
Yeah, if he does Survivor, then he's going to be the first three-peater. There are a lot of people who are close. Boston Rob has done both Amazing Race and Survivor. He hasn't done Big Brother. Caleb did Big Brother and Survivor, but not Amazing Race. Like, there are people who are teetering on my right. Janelle has done Amazing Race and Big Brother.
Right. He's the first. He is the first with 3, I think, right?
Yeah, counting the challenge, but the
Counting
challenge
the
is,
challenge.
it's the
Challenge
first
is
CBS
different.
season, so like I don't want to do the challenge, so that's fine. He can have that goal.
Right.
Moving on now to Emily and Molly. Emily and Molly are both 36 because they're long lost twins. They're sisters. I like that. The long lost part is cool because it's like it's not the
Right.
you've spent your whole childhood together, but it's also like but because you're twins, there's just such a connection already. I'm intrigued by this. I think they're gonna have the story of the season. Um, Despite me not necessarily knowing how they're going to do physically or in this race itself, I think they're going to be team to watch for the joy of watching their character development, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't have them in my ranking super duper high, but super duper. But I do think that they have, again, their siblings. They've got that connection, but they haven't gotten to spend as much time with each other as they possibly could have growing up. So maybe that will be a good thing for them. Maybe it'll be a bad thing. We'll see. I don't know. It's a cool storyline. I like it a
Yeah.
lot.
Moving on now, Glenda and Lumumba. I don't know how to say his name, but Glenda and Lumumba Roberts. They are a 41-year-old middle school teacher and insurance underwriter. He is way shorter than her, which good for you, you short king. Or she's just a tall queen. I don't know,
Jesus
but they're both
Christ.
amazing. Newlyweds, though. So they're obviously not as developed of a relationship as some others, but they are married nonetheless. What do you think of this? Because I just love the dynamic of like she seems like the strength, the muscle of the two.
Yeah,
Him
I
as well,
mean,
but, you know.
I think that she brings the strength and the drive, and he brings the knowledge. I mean, not that middle school teaching is not a very difficult job. You know that I know this, but you play to each other's strengths, and it seems like they know how to complement each other, so much so that they got married only after a year of knowing and being in a relationship, which is already a difficult decision to make when you're choosing who to spend your life with. So I think that they know what they want, and that could really fare well for them with this.
Yeah. So now moving on to Luis and Michelle, 34-year-old, another dancer here. Michelle is a dancer. Luis is a firefighter. They're married. They probably have the least amount of information to go off of, but like they look very strong. They look like they're going to be
Right.
good. They just look like your stereotypical like great amazing race team. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think they'll do well. I don't have it's some of them provide a lot of enough information to make like an idea or like a comment about. I'm just like, great, she knows Pitbull. That's pretty
Oh,
cool.
does she? That's cool.
She
So you've done like actual
backup
like
dancer
research.
for Pitbull.
Oh, okay. So they
Yeah.
just bumped up a little in my ranking. I like that. Moving on now, Linton, who's 50, he's an assistant principal, very cool, and Sharik, his daughter, 23, a master's student. Brooklyn represent. I don't know though with the father-daughter team. They could go one of two ways. They could be the first boot, or they could end up being,
Right.
Natalia and Arun from last season, who did so well. But again, they did well on a COVID season. They were the second ones out. They were
Right.
brought
And then they
back
came
and then
back.
did well. So, but they survived so many non-elimination legs. So it's like with those non-elimination legs and the COVID thing, how well would they have done? They would have been the second ones out. So I really don't think that means that these two are going to do very well. I have them relatively early boots. I don't know about you.
I also have them pretty early. It's a toss up always every time you rank a father and or a parent and a sibling, because parents and siblings naturally just have a bit of competition or what's the word, tension between them, because that's just how parents and children are. But they could take that and really fly away with it, or they could just kind of like crash and burn right away, which I would not like to see.
No,
But
I always root for these types of pairs, but it's
Yes.
always hard because he's visibly older than a lot of other people.
Right.
Marcus and Michael, 38-year-old Army tank commander and a 30-year-old Air Force fighter pilot. They're brothers who are in the military. They're going to be scary physically. I think like any physical challenge, they are going to be able to dominate. The question is, do they have the mental stuff? Do they
Right.
have the communication? Do they have the navigation skills? Because Amazing Race is not just physical. You have to be able to physically keep up because it's a lot of just movement and running and on your feet. But it's not all heavy lifting. There's puzzles, there's mental challenges, there's a lot of language stuff. Are they going to be able to match their physical strength with their mental strength? I don't know. This could be a Michael and Mo situation. I know they were your winner picks last year, but they were also kind of first boots twice. And
we don't need to say it again.
Sorry. But
Okay.
that's the kind of vibe I'm getting here is like they're going to be physically good, but do
Right.
they have the other things that other teams are going to have
That-
over them?
right.
I don't know. What do you think?
That's kind of where that's where they are in my realm of thought as well. I don't know if they're going to have all the things they need, but they show. Oh my god, sorry. I think they
That's
show a
okay.
lot more promise than Mike and Mo did last season, but I won't put
Mhm.
all my eggs in one basket.
Right. All right. We are down now to Quentin and Matty, spelled Matty. I love that. Quentin, 29-year-old choreographer, Matty, a 27-year-old dance coach. All these dancers, there's a lot of dancers. These are NFL cheerleaders. They were both former Rams cheerleaders. They look like they are like really like agile, athletic. I really like these two, and I think they just give off really good energy just from their picture. This is like my dark horse of like I don't know if they're going to be the most like overestimated, but I think
Yeah.
I'm underestimated. I think a lot of people are going to underestimate them. Like I really like them.
I like them a lot. Again, I don't know. I don't know if they have. This is again. I don't want to assume anything, but I need to know that they have the full realm of understanding of all the challenges, not just the physical or the stamina. I think they have potential to be awesome, but they also have the potential to kind of fizzle out super early.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Now moving on. Oh boy, I love this. Tim Mann, a 40-year-old probation officer, and Rex Ryan, legendary NFL coach and ESPN analyst. Sorry, Rex Ryan. He's 59. He's the second oldest, I think. Actually, no, he might be the oldest. How old is? Yeah, he's 50. So he's 9 years older than him, actually. So yeah, this is the oldest guy on here, but it's Rex Ryan. Like he is an athletic legend. They're branded as golf buddies, which I love. But as much as he's an athletic icon, I mean, he's 59. So it's
Yeah,
like,
I don't
know.
I gotta be 100%. I mean, if we're not talking first boots yet, but this is who I would pick as a first boot. But of course, that it doesn't mean anything. It honestly depends on what the first leg is like. Because if it's not super explorative, then maybe it won't be as bad. But I can't
don't
see
know.
how they're gonna do with physical challenges with one another.
I mean, he's such a legend. I want to root for him, and I think the show wants him on a leg or two. Like honestly, if the first leg, if they're trailing behind, they might call Phil and be like, make it a non-elimination because I think they just want them on multiple episodes. That's why they're not my first boot prediction, but like I can't see them going far. Like I just can't. And if they do, that's going to be an awesome story. But like I just can't, especially because they're golf buddies. They're not they're not siblings. They're not married, obviously. Like they're friends, and I think that's like the bottom of like the communication like bond totem pole.
Right.
So, and lastly, we have Rich and Dom. Rich, 32-year-old life coach. Dom, a 35-year-old gym owner. It looks like they are dating. I mean, they're kissing in that video. They're motivational speakers, though, is the description. They look like fun casting choices, maybe for Big Brother and Survivor, but I just don't know if the Amazing Race is the right one for them. Like, I just look at them and I'm just not feeling an Amazing Race dominant team. But again, I'd love to be proven wrong because I think they are fun characters. Zach, you disagree. This is our biggest separation. So
I feel super Amazing Race about them because they look like they work together as partners rather than are looking to play a game that like they're trying to win. And that's I think sometimes it's not about trying to win. Sometimes it's just about trying to work with your partner, and they look and seem as though they're willing to work with each other as partners rather than saying like, I'm going to do this, you're going to do that, and that's how this is going to go, which I enjoy. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, they're still they're not super high, but well, they're good. I don't know.
And that's fine. No, that's fine. I like the fact that we could be differing on this because like I like when we're a little bit more separated. So I'm going to pull up the cast photo here and we're going to go in order. Zach, who is your 12th place finisher? Who's your last place finisher?
So I hate to say it. It is Tim and Rex.
Okay. Yeah.
I know that there's a possibility for them to stay on, but I will say I would be shocked if they stayed on past the first leg, because I just don't know how they're going to manage it, logistically speaking.
Yeah, no,
I'm a 29-year-old, 28-year-old, who like myself, like, and I work out pretty regularly. Like, I still struggle sometimes with stamina, so I'm trying to imagine like some older gentlemen who maybe are not as active as they could be, trying to navigate through, I would hesitate to say that they move past the first leg, but we'll see.
Yeah, my 12th is Linden and Sharik here, just because I think, Arun and Natalia, had they not gotten so many non-elimination legs and had they not had the COVID stuff, they would be an early boot. So, I just think they're going to be an early boot. I only put Rex and Tim in 11th place because I personally want them to go further than just a leg. So that's my thinking. What?
That's perfect, Dylan, because my 11th is Linton and Sharik. So we just have opposing 11th and 12th, which is okay.
Great. Who is your 10th place finisher?
My 10th place is Emily and Molly.
Okay.
I see them kind of as Lulu and Lala, where they're working together, but I don't necessarily know what kind of things they're going to be able to do together, and they don't have as great of a rhythm with one another yet, but I just see it feels like they have that story where they're going to go out and it's going to be sad, but that's okay.
It's funny because at 10th, I know this is probably going to differ from you a lot. I have Rich and Dom, the motivational speakers. I just wasn't given I wasn't given that vibe that they were going to be like a super dominant team. But you do bring some good points to the table, is that they do have a connection, and that's a big thing. And they're good at speaking, they're good at communicating, which might be the key. Some of the best Amazing Race teams are not the most physically jacked, but at the same time, I don't know. I just didn't get that vibe from them.
Right.
Who's your 9th place?
In 9th, I have Aubrey and David.
Okay. Which ones are they? They're the ballroom dancers, right?
Yes. I think that I just think kind of like with what I said, where it was are they going to be able to navigate around one another? I don't know, but I can foresee them kind of butting heads, trying to figure out who should be leading in whatever part of or whatever leg that they're in. And I feel like that might end up kind of biting them in the ass at the end of all this.
In 9th, I actually this might be another shocker. I have Marcus and Michael, the military brothers, because I'm getting Michael and Mo vibes from them. I don't know why. I think it's just most recent, but I just feel like they've got the physical stuff, but I just don't think they'll necessarily be the smartest of the bunch because they're purely muscle, and I think you need to have balance, and that's why I have them in 9th. But hey, I like that we're different. That's great. Who's your 8th?
In 8th, I know this is going to be different from you. I have Quentin and Maddie.
Okay. That's the NFL cheerleaders right there. Yeah, right there.
Yes. I just want to see if they're going to have the rounded out kind of wherewithal to make it through more than just the physical parts of the leg and see how they work together. They clearly know how to work together because they've been on the team together. But how do they navigate around mental challenges?
Yeah, this is going to be so fun because the way we do Amazing Race, Survivor, we go week by week and we change the rankings. But with Amazing Race, the rankings kind of speak for themselves based on how they place in the legs. So we're going to keep this ranking the whole season. So it's very fun seeing where I have Quinn and Maddie and where you do.
Right.
My 8th place is, you already talked about them, but Emily and Molly, the long lost twins. I think they have a great story that's going to propel them probably a few episodes in. But I agree with you. I think they're an early boot because of just the reasons you mentioned. Who's your 7th?
Is it Astha and Nina?
That's actually my 7th too. So we'll talk.
Perfect.
About that,
I think that they're great middle of the leg picks. They're going to do probably really, really well, but I feel like they're going to run out of steam a little early.
I agree. And at 6, actually, I do have the ballroom dancers. So just to kind of round out that, I think they're going to go a little further than you have them going. But I do think, like you said, the communication might not be as there as some of the other pairings, in terms of relationship. But I do think physically they're there. They're ready for it. Who's your 6th?
At 6th, I have Glenda and Lamumba. Again, I feel like they're gonna be underestimated, and they're gonna move through this well. I think they're not gonna have as much of a success navigating some of these later challenges, especially as the pressure builds. But they're gonna navigate through the first couple of legs really, really well, I think.
Yeah, they're my 5th, so that perfectly segues. Sure. I think they're going to be long game players. I just don't think they're going to go that extra mile to the finale. I just don't know. I just don't get as great of a vibe of them as I do some others, but that's just because first impressions are first impressions. Who is your 5th place?
My 5th is Rich and Dom, which I know you thought was a little. And again, I think that they're going to have a lot to work with, and there's just going to be a challenge that really neither of them know how to navigate around. Maybe it's a little too physical, maybe it's a little too on the nose mentally, whatever it is, and it's just going to take them out.
Yeah. It's interesting because we have a final 4 left to go, and you and I both have 3 of the same final 4. It's just one is different.
It's one is different.
So who's your 4th place?
In fourth, I have Lewis and Michelle.
Okay.
Only for the reasoning that I think they are probably going to work well together. But and I just get the feeling, like you said, they're like your classic Amazing Race couple. Like they've got the brawn, they've got, the beauty of each other, but I want to see them pushed through more. They're, it's not always the physicality that wins, but when you're trying to push through to the end of those legs, it's about your stamina, and I think both of them are going to have that.
Yeah. In fourth, I have Abby and Will. I like Abby and Will a lot. They're just missing out on the finale for me because I think they're going to be a great team. I think they're going really far, but they don't have that killer instinct that I think my top three teams have, which is why I have them right outside the four. But mean, fourth place is still amazing. So of 12, that's the top third. I'm very happy putting them there. As shocked as your face led on, who's your third place?
My third place is Marcus and Michael.
All right.
I think that I'm going to take the risk on them and say that because of how physical they are, and also the fact that they were serving together, and they've gone through these intense drills and this intense mindset. I think they're going to have some of the wherewithal to make it through to the end and just come up short versus other, maybe a little bit more strategic, maybe some more strategic thinkers, which is who I have.
In third, I do have Luis and Michelle. You just mentioned them. I think they're gonna I think they're the most prime in terms of overall team to make it to the finale. I think they're the safest bet. But the thing is I don't know once they make it to the finale if they have some of the extra oomph that my top two teams do. Who is your second place finisher here?
It's DX and Claire, baby.
Oh, you don't have them winning. Okay.
No, so listen, I don't have them winning only because I've been burned before.
Because if you pick them to win, they're going to lose. Yeah.
Right. I think that Derek and Claire have absolutely probably the best overall shot at winning. They've dealt with reality TV before. They know the way that this kind of all goes. Derek has competed in a multitude of challenges, as has Claire, but Derek obviously has two full different shows worth of challenges. They're likable. They came together because of things like this. I think that they're primed to do incredibly well. I think they're just going to fall a little bit short versus my other pair who has a bit more of a connection.
It's interesting because second place, you have them way lower, but I have the former NFL cheerleaders. I love Quentin and Maddie. I just love the energy they give off. Look at Quentin. He just looks so fun.
I know.
And they also look like they're going to be really good in challenges. But the thing is, anything can happen. And I love that we have them so different. You have them in eighth. I have them in second, which is eighth is still not bad. But, I do think they're going to be really fun to watch. But in first, I do have Derek X and Claire only because I'm a little biased. I am. I honestly don't think on paper they're the best team because I think some other teams are stronger. But in terms of just who I'm rooting for, I'm gonna root for them because I know them and just because I do like their relationship. They do have a connection. And like you said, they're used to the pressure of the cameras. I don't think reality television expertise has anything to do with Amazing Race success, really. I don't think there's much strategy involved, but I think the pressure of the cameras and being on TV, they've already kind of jumped that. And I think that's why Rex Ryan will hopefully survive a leg as well. I think they are just used to the stress and the pressure of just always being watched in the public eye, which I think will help in that sense. But otherwise, if I hadn't known them, they would have been maybe fifth, sixth place. But because I really like them and I'm really rooting for them, I'm going to put them in first selfishly. But your first place, I see them up here in the right corner. Talk about it.
Is Abby and Will. you know what? They've got the story. They've got the want. They clearly have the patience with one another. And I think, to be honest with you, when it comes to Amazing Race, and we saw it last season with the two school teachers, whose names are escaping me. When you don't have patience with your partner, you risk, and that's a big reason why Rachel, my wife, and I say that we could never go on with each other, because the truth is, when you don't have patience with your partner in a high competitive scenario, you really risk running home early in something like this. Childhood friend, you've been through so many different parts of your life together at this point that I just can't see them not being able to navigate around that kind of a difficulty.
Yeah. And Akbar and Sherry is the team you were looking for. Yeah.
Right.
That's the one you were
yes.
Akbar and Sherry.
But not take each other to the end with their their trust and ability within one another. So I see that kind of being what occurs for them, and I'm hoping for the best as well.
Yeah. So there we go. That's our Amazing Race predictions. To just to recap, I have Derek X and Claire. He has Abby and Will as our winner picks. But anything can happen. I'm very excited for it. Next Wednesday on Wednesday we will get the first episode. But now transitioning to Survivor, we are here, everyone. I'm very excited to be talking about Survivor. We're gonna just jump right in. I'll go over the tribes at the end, but let's just jump right into our first cast announcement. Neka Ajire, 43 years old, from Texas, lives in Texas. She's a pharmacist. She describes herself as joyful, hardworking, trustworthy. She kind of has that mom vibe of she wants to play like Suri,
Right.
like the one who connects to people socially first and foremost, maybe strategic and physically second. I like her. I think she's going to be fun to watch. The mom character can either be out early or go far. We've kind of seen it both ways. Heather made it far. Tiffany was out in the merge in 41. And then in 42, Mariah was the first boot on her tribe. So it really goes to show, or first vote out of her tribe, because Jackson went before. But you can see anything happen, which is exciting. What do you think about her?
She's wonderful. I always hesitate to see someone who is looking to play strategic first over physical, because in the beginning of the game, physical is what matters the most. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's just the kind of game that Survivor is. It's not like Big Brother in that regard, where it's strategic or physical. Either one can work. So I would love to see her go far, and I love how much drive she's gotten to the game. I hope it just gets to take her a little bit further than that.
Yeah. And we'll go through tribes at the very end to see who all these people are working with. But, we've kind of, it's hard to go in order because this is the order Entertainment Weekly is giving us. Next is Gabler, Mike Gabler. He's going by Gabler, though, which I kind of like. It's funny. He's already donned himself a nickname. He's already cementing himself as a Survivor legend, the Cochrans and the Penners and all the people that go by the last name. I love this at the end. Why do you believe you can be the Soul Survivor? Yes! He doesn't get an answer.
I just do.
He's the oldest person on the cast at 52, but again, he is, I think, one of the best characters, just from a standpoint. We saw the preview at the end of last season. He was heavily featured, him and his mustache and beard. I don't know, though, in terms of strategy. He could be a Brad where he just fizzles out early. I think looking at these tribes, his tribe, the green, or I think they're the yellow tribe, I think, has the most likelihood of losing the most. They give me UA vibes of the JD, Ricard, Jeannie, Brad, Sarah, and Shannon tribe, the train wreck tribe. He gives me that vibe in that tribe, but I think he could be someone who, because of his survivalist tendencies, if he doesn't overplay like Brad, could make it far just by being a loyal ally. But when you get to the merge, he could be Nasir'd out, where it's this guy has a good shot of winning if he gets to the end, and he's not really someone we necessarily want to be running the game for us, but also too big a threat. Let's cut him early. I don't know. Or he could be a Mike Turner. Who knows? What are your thoughts on that?
Nothing much more to add. I think he could fizzle out, or he could run away with it to the end. It's hard to say, but it's all going to depend on how the people together kind of see their assets needed. I think that, again, when we're using these rankings, we're going off of really their personality, the very little personality we get to know from a video or from just these, and then maybe a little bit about their tribes, and then something like their age. So I think he could go out early, but I wouldn't be surprised if he snaked his way through to merge.
Cool. And as we know, this season, the hourglass is gone, so we're not getting that twist, which is good because now people can actually play to win at the merge instead of trying to throw a competition, because now they've watched those seasons. They're not going to want to win if they knew the hourglass was back. And we're getting rid of the do or die. So this is all purely vote outs. They are doing they're keeping the, what is it called? Shot in the dark, which is fine. I like that.
And it gets used so infrequently that it really is just a literal shot in the dark.
So Noelle Lambert, she was also on the previews a lot. She is, obviously a Paralympian. You can see the prosthetic leg she has, which I think is a cool story as a casting choice. But immediately you're on the island with her, and it's you can't let this girl get to the end. You just can't, because
Yeah,
all she has to say is, I got to the end with this disability, with how I am. And she doesn't necessarily have to use that for a win, but like when you have someone who very clearly has like that like winner story just based on
right.
who she is, that's tough. That's like why, you have people similarly, we've had Paralympians or people with disabilities in the past make it not too far because of that. But also you have people like Jeremy who won the season because he didn't tell anyone his wife was expecting. But in in finale, he says, my wife is expecting. I'm doing this for my kid, and he wins unanimously. Adam Klein keeps his mother's cancer a secret. In the finale, he brings it out, and he
Right.
wins unanimously. Like, it's something that just like when you have that story, it's almost hard for the jury not
Right.
to give it to you. And I'm not saying she's going to win off of sympathy, but it's hard to see this and be like,
No, it's hard to not. It's hard to not, unfortunately, feel threatened by something like this when you're playing a game, because again, it's a game. You want your best setup, the opportunity for you to be set up the best you possibly can. And the truth is, if you let Noelle go to the end, how do you win? You don't. And that's just, unless Noelle as a person, which this doesn't seem to be the case, unless Noelle as a person very much continues to be like, I don't want this to be how I win. I don't want this to be what makes people vote for me. So she really spends her time at the beginning kind of pushing forward the idea that like, I'm here to play strategically, not because I'm a Paralympian, not because of that. This is something that I can't help but carry with me, but I would like it to not be the reason I win the game. And I would respect it. Because if it were me, I would 100% probably use that. And if it got me to the end, that's how I'd want to win my money.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to say that being someone who doesn't deal with that. So,
one thing I think she's got going for her is that if I look at the tribes, her tribe looks the strongest on paper. It's that red tribe, which we'll talk about Dwight, Jesse, Noelle, and Cody later. But we already talked about NECA, who is probably the weak link on that tribe still. Like if that tribe loses first, I think they get rid of NECA, who's like more the mom figure, before Noelle, because Noelle's probably going to be stronger in challenges. If they lose again, though, I'm worried Noelle's next.
Right.
But the thing is, that tribe looks so strong compared to the other two tribes that I don't know how many times they're going to go to tribal before the merge. So she could easily get to the merge. But once you're in the merge with her, I think she's going to become like target.
Yeah, I have her. I in my ranking, I'll just tell you I have her in the merge, but it's not much further past the merge.
And I don't know where the merge is, if it's 12th or 11th place ish. But like I have her like making that merge, or if their merge is at 11, I have her just missing out. Spoiler alert, she's my 12th place because like I think she'll be the last one of the pre-merge or like the first of the merge. Like she's somewhere around that area, because I don't know if the merge is going to be 13th, 12th, or 11th. So like all those percentages, all those placements are around the merge point. Owen Knight, 30-year-old from Maryland, now lives in New Orleans, however you want to say it. Very, very smart guy. He talks about how he's a public speaker. He's got a high IQ. But he says here he uses EQ more than his IQ, and that's very self-aware. He's kind and fun and hardworking as well. But also the one thing that separates him from someone like High from last season or someone like Omer is the fact that he's fucking built, man. Like he looks like he can win a challenge. Yeah. And I think that's going to be really great for Owen. I like Owen a lot. And he wants to play like Adam Klein. I just mentioned Adam. Adam was someone who really kept his threat level low, and then at the end pulled out all the stops. And by that meaning, like he used his sob story, but also like made some good strategy at the end. Like Owen feels like someone who's going to be very well-rounded. Now, does that get him Omered out in the middle of the game? Maybe.
Well, again,
does that make him
he seems very... He gives me Omer vibes. That's like who I think of immediately as I'm like hearing all of this. I'm like, oh, you sound like Omer, my guy. But probably a little bit stronger than Omer, which will take him 100% to merge. Unless
I think he's a lock for the merge. Yeah,
I think he's a lock for the merge. But again, I don't know how long he stays in the merge unless he wins immunity. Just because he might wear his heart on his sleeve too much, and that might get him into trouble. And who knows? That's really kind of the unfortunate part about it.
So next we have Justine, who is also on that red tribe that I mentioned. That's going to be really strong. I don't get many vibes from her in terms of how she's going to do socially, strategically or not. She doesn't seem like the most physical, but she is in cybersecurity sales. She's talking a lot about like these dollar amounts with the gold Lexus here and the most proud accomplishment thing. And, like she seems like she's probably really smart. She's an unathletic girly girl to most people, but she said she grew up racing dirt bikes and going to derbies, and she played powder puff football. So like, I don't know, like she could be very well-rounded or she could be a big mystery. I think it's hard to put her in a ranking just because it's like she seems just very straightforward.
Right.
Like she seems like a good player. She doesn't seem like someone who's going to be a problem, but also not someone that I'm like she's a winner. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think it's just kind of going to be one of those. I do have her high, but again, it's not because I think she's a good player. I think she could end up being a GOAT,
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
string her along until the end. But I also, the other thing is, she might be somebody that, like you said, I don't see her tribe losing quite frequently. But you bring her to the end and you know, use her as fodder for fire making. She can get her out before final three, and that really kind of just, because that's the other thing. I don't see her. I don't see anyone being able to lose to her in tribal based on her backstory, or to lose to her at the end based on her backstory. Someone who needs the money, quote unquote, needs the money more, because we never know what people are actually going through. Someone who needs the money more may just string her along and be like, "Listen, guys, you know how much I need this," and that really plays to votes. That can play to votes at the end. So we'll see. I don't see her. I don't see her leaving quite early, but she's not a winner in my eyes.
Also, you and I knowing the tribe dynamics, I mean, you look at that tribe, if they lose, I think the clear first boots are NECA, who we've already talked about, and Noelle, who we've already talked about. You know, you have the girl with the disability who has clearly got a winning story. You've got NECA, who is more the mom figure. She's the old lady out. I think Justine, of all the girls, is safest. So I think like she has a good ticket to the merge. It's just, is she going to be able to make those relationships to go even further? We will see. God, these ads. Dalton Ross, fix your ads. Just kidding. Cody Assenmacher, which I love. Cody Assenmacher, or Assenmaker. I don't know. Funny name. He lives in Hawaii. He's one of two people who lives in Hawaii, but he's from Iowa. He's proud of his relationships, whatever, yada, yada, yada. But I saw in his video, he has a tattoo of the word "livin" on his butt cheek. This guy is going to be your class clown.
Yeah.
But, like, does that make him a chaotic player? Does that make him like a Zach Rance, where it's like, this guy's funny, but he's also a good game player, let's have him in our alliance? Or does it make him like a JD, where he's just so all over the place, where it's like, we can't trust this guy, we got to get rid of him? I don't know. I think he's on this stronger red tribe. Like, he's going to be on the red tribe. I don't see him going home pre-merge, because he's one of the stronger guys on the stronger tribes. But once he makes it to the merge, is he going to be too much of a wild card to keep around? Almost like a Daniel, where it's like, I can't risk this guy in our alliance anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I see a lot of these people, especially like, he's moved to Hawaii, he's a class clown, you're going to want to keep him around. I do think he probably gets to the merge, but I don't think he makes it through much of the merge. I think you take out maybe a couple of bigger threats, and then he's someone who you look at and you're like, we're gonna, it's time to go.
But I'm excited to see him as a character, for sure. Speaking of characters, Mariah Young, our second Mariah in a row. And oddly enough, from last year, Mariah was on a tribe with Marianne, and she's giving me Marianne vibes, this girl. The only difference is, instead of like that killer instinct, she's going for more of the loyal game. She's someone who's very friendly and is going to like prioritize loyalty. She's super lovable. She's not an immediate threat. I disagree. I think her saying she's not an immediate threat. She's not an immediate threat in terms of like, I'm not scared and threatened by you, but she's an immediate threat in the terms of like, she is so likable that if she gets to the end, she's gonna do well. So like, and I think she's an easy target for her team to be like, yo, we got to take out her. I think her tribe is the most likely to go to tribal often. And I could see her maybe pulling off maybe one or two blindsides, but like, if her tribe keeps losing, I don't see how they don't take her out early, because she just seems like she's going to be more social than she is going to be physical. And like you said, physical game is the most important early on. And she's kind of like that really sweet, like, oh, I don't like negative Nancy's, I don't like Debbie Downers. I don't know how she's going to handle the blind sides and the cutthroat gameplay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't see her moving far past the merge. I really just can't see a really big path to even the merge for her, which is big. I think she's an easy person to get out, because you look at how bright, colorful, and wonderful she is. That to me is a tin test and screams like, everybody's going to like her. And if everyone likes her and everyone just keeps dragging her along, she's going to win. And that's
the only good news is that this was filmed while Marianne's season was airing. So if there are any parallels to make with Marianne. They haven't seen it. So
Right.
luckily, maybe she doesn't have that stigma, which is good. Whereas I think a lot of viewers are like, oh, she gives me Marianne vibes. She's going to be someone they're going to want to take out. Luckily, they haven't seen that. So that could be her one key. But yeah, I'm a little worried for her. Moving on to Sammy Layati, who I believe is the youngest one on this cast. He's 19 from Las Vegas. He's a pet cremator, which I don't like that. And here's what he says: he's unpredictable, tenacious, and indecisive. Okay, that's kind of a red flag. I like this guy in terms of like he seems like someone I could like be friends with, but in this game of Survivor, this unpredictable and indecisive help in the game, I don't know, especially his age, and he's on that tribe, like I said, with Gabler, with Mariah, who we just mentioned. Like that's the tribe that I think is going to be the train wreck tribe. Is he part of that train wreck, or is he one of the few who gets out of it easily? Like we've already talked about Owen. We both like Owen. Like he could end up being either or, and I don't know. I have one way I'm leaning, but I'm curious to see how you feel.
Yeah, I have him low. I think that Zach burned me from last season. But you gotta have clear cut motives on this show. You've got to have an idea of what you want or how you're going to get yourself to a certain place. And to be indecisive, and especially to be young, I mean, you don't want people looking and feeling like they're just kind of dragging you along with them. You got to be smart. You got to be willing to pull punches. And I just don't get that vibe from him, which it kind of sucks. I would love to see him go far, but the young ones never really do they? That's the hard part.
We'll see. Well, Marianne was young, but again, like she was more mature than like
she presented
JD
way more mature than them.
Carla Cruz Godoy, age 28, from San Diego, now lives in Newark, Delaware. I thought it was Newark, New Jersey at first. I was excited, but either way, I'm excited about her. She seems
exactly where Newark, it's Newark, Delaware. I dated someone who went to Delaware University, and that was a very big thing. Newark. That's right. They never wanted to be compared to Newark.
At first, I don't see her as like a physical threat, but the more I read about her, the more she gives me that like killer instinct vibe. She wants to play like a Suri again. We've seen a lot of people say they want to play like Suri, but she says she's adaptable, resilient, gregarious. Her ancestors have her back. She's confident in her social game. Like she just seems like someone that like I think a lot of people are going to underestimate. But I don't know why you target her first unless she's really bad at challenges, because like she seems like someone a lot of people are going to like get along with. She just seems very personable. But I don't know. How do you feel about her?
I am very excited about Carla. I actually think that she's going to do super well. I have her high in my first week ranking. She seems like she's, again, like kind of like what I was saying about Sammy, where like you can't be indecisive, or Mariah, you can't be too nice. She seems like the perfect in between of like not going to be too nice. I'm not going to be too pushovery. And I'm not going to be like overwhelmingly like negative. She's ready to win, and that's always when you come in that first week showcasing that you're looking to work together as a tribe and win. Usually fares pretty well. I mean, look at like Evie. And the way that they navigated, like they came in looking to win, and people were like, "I like that."
Yeah,
I like
another
that.
queer contestant here too, which I think could also be part of like her just character and the way she connects to people, which I like. Moving on now to Ryan Medrano, also on her Carla's tribe, age 25, is a little bit younger, warehouse associate, fishing, hiking, carpentry. He's there for the adventure. He's like very much more like physical challenge based than strategic, which I think, you know, to an extent is good for his longevity in terms of like, I think he can make the merge easily, but it's like, is he going to be a winner? I don't know. Just because he's more physical than he is strategic, and you've got to be able to be a triple threat. He says he's a triple threat. He can socialize easily and naturally strong, quick in puzzles, but he's talking about two of those being puzzles and strength, but that's all challenges. He's saying he can socialize, but he is not saying anything strategically. Triple threat is social, strategic, physical. He's saying he's triple threat, social, physical, mental, physical. Like challenges is two of the three, so that doesn't make you a triple threat.
So full disclosure, and I'm not, again, like this might be you disclose your 12th. I am going to unfortunately disclose my second because it is Ryan.
Second place.
But because it's exactly what you're talking about. I think Ryan has probably one of the better paths as a contestant to get to the end. He's going to be able to win a lot. He's going to be usable, but he's not going to have anything by the time he gets to Final Tribe. Final Tribal. And I think that whoever goes up against them, as long as they're able to talk their way around it, they're going to beat him. And it's going to suck because he looks easy to root for. He looks like, oh my God, this guy's going to do great. But he also reads as, I'm not going to be able to present anything resume wise at the end other than the fact that I won challenges. And that's not necessarily the way that you win the game. And I just think that he's going to sit final 3 and probably get like 1 or 2 votes because of his strategicness. But I think somebody's going to beat him.
Moving on now to Lindsay Carmine. She's 42, one of the older women again. Greensboro, North Carolina, now lives in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. Probably pronouncing that wrong too, because Pennsylvania, they pronounce their towns differently. She's
I know
like
Downingtown.
Really?
I
yes,
do.
You do. You went to college.
I do,
there, right?
unfortunately, know Downingtown. We'll talk about it after. Yes.
Boy. But yeah, she's a healthcare. She loves the healthcare provider. All her answers are very like sweet and like great, like just great answers. Like they're all just great answers, but none of them are also like cutthroat answers, which could be good or bad. I mean, she's on a tribe with, I think, some of the strongest people in the game, but also like some of the bigger like. I don't know how to say it. Like the more like chaotic players,
the bigger competitor, the more in your face.
A lot of the competitors on her blue tribe are going to be like the stir the pot people, and I'm worried that her being so normal is not going to mesh well with that. But if they're all looking for an ally that they can trust, she's your girl. So I think she could either be someone that they immediately pull into alliance, like let's work together, or it's going to be all these people are going so crazy, gameplay. Let's get out the common, like she's the sane person of the group. Let's get rid of her. It could go one of 2 ways, and I have maybe a hot take on her, but I'd love to hear your thoughts first.
I don't really have much to disagree with that. I have her in my head kind of missing out on the merge just a bit, but because again, I don't really see a want to win from these answers. Like, I think she's got a wonderful story with her healthcare profession, but it just doesn't seem like there's a lot of oomph behind her to like, I'm here to win. I'm here to get this money. I'm here to do this. She'll be able to survive for sure in the way that like she'll probably be helpful for her tribe, so they'll keep her around. But then once you get to the merge, there's going to be so many of you. I don't really think that she's going to stick around much longer after that. And that's
you know who she reminds me of to an extent? Jenny of last season, who like had nothing wrong with her game. She was aligned with the right people, but like in that tribal, the reason she goes home is because she didn't have the majority alliance. She had one core alliance with Mike Turner, but obviously the twist fucked her with all the missing votes and highs. Where are the votes? All that stuff. But at the same time, if Jenny had been a little bit more cutthroat, she probably would have been able to form a more cohesive alliance. And I'm worried Lindsay might get almost run over by some of her tribe. I'll say the hot take I have is the fact that I have a really early boot because a lot of people online, from what I've been hearing, are putting her in their top predictions. They're like, oh, Lindsay's going to go far. Because they see this mom who's very well-rounded. But I think the furthest upside she has is maybe like a Heather upside of like she could make Final 4, Final 5, maybe even be Final 3, but I just don't see a winner there. And maybe I'm missing something that other people are getting.
No, I am.
A lot of people are comparing her to Chrissy, who made it to Final 2 and was like one of the best like runner-ups ever. But also Chrissy was so like cutthroat. Whereas I just don't see that with Lindsay. And on a tribe that like we haven't gotten to him yet, but Gio says he wants to stir the pot. James Jones loves the drama. Ryan, we've seen, is like a big physical person. Cassidy could be someone who stirs the pot. We've already talked about Carla, who is just going to be like probably all around a good player, but also is very competitive. I think that Lindsay's the odd one out. On any other tribe, she might make the Final 3. But on this tribe, I think she's the person who's most screwed by her tribe because I think she's normal in a sea of misfits. And I think that's what's going to be bad for her. And I'll tell you where I have her when we get to the end. But I don't think she's going to do very well. Janine Zhang, 24 years old, one of the younger contestants. She lives in California. She's a UX designer. I don't know what UX is. 3 words to describe her: green. She absorbs a lot of new information, which is cool. She's empathetic. She's witty. She's like your typical young, like Gen Xer or Gen Zer, like kind of, fun, kind of with the times. Almost kind of gives me an Erica vibe of like she could make it far if her tribe wins a lot, but she's on that tribe that I just don't have much confidence in. And when you look at that tribe, who are the most blatantly weak people. It's Mariah, which we already talked about, and I think it's Janine. And I think Janine is going to have to make those social bonds. Otherwise, she's going to be targeted early because, like, you have people even like Sammy who are, chaotic, that I could very well see Janine being like, let's take a move on Sammy. I could see that being an early blindside. But if her tribe keeps losing, I think there's going to be a point where you just have to kind of get rid of her because
you got to say like, okay, you got to go. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do have her a little bit higher because I do actually think she might exist on that line of like, we really got to get somebody out. And I think she'll start to make a lot of those moves, especially with like Sammy and Mariah on there that are a little bit more in your face. Like they might be more of your problems right away, but it all depends on how she kind of handles herself with that. But she is, I do like she's living out her and her father's dream by being on Survivor, which I always appreciate.
Yeah, and the one thing I will also say about her is that like she screams new school player in a way that like I'm excited to see how she navigates it. It's just like she's someone that I think is screwed by her tribe and the fact that I think they're going to lose a lot and eventually it's just going to have to come down to her going home because I think she could run the game otherwise. Like I think a player like her could be a sneaky player to watch out for, just like on the tribe she's given.
She reminds me of Sydney a little bit. A little bit in the way that like she kind of like I guess just in the face, like in the way that she's giving what kind of vibe she's giving off. But I thought Sydney wasn't going to do well. I actually don't remember where I thought Sydney was going to do, but like I think that she kind of falls in that same regard of like it might take something unexpected happening for them to be like, all right, well, it's Janine now. It's Janine. Time to get rid of Janine.
Next we have Jesse Lopez, and this was the guy that was all over the preview in the little what do you call it? End of 42, preview to 43. His hobbies are playing chess with his son, dancing with his daughter. His pet peeve is quitters. He seems like someone who's going to be very about like the work mentality, but also like he has an interesting story. He was jumped into a gang at 15. He kind of overcame that, has built a family, has a life he loves. He went to research at Duke. He has just like such a crazy story.
Right.
He says, which Survivor Tech contestants are you most like? Spencer and Christian, if they got jumped into a gang at 15. Like, that's really interesting. I think he's got the most interesting story of anyone. And he's someone that I could see. I just think he's going to be like a main focus of the season. I don't know why they'd hype him up so much preseason if he wasn't going far, but he could also be a Nasir where he goes far but still gets cut early jury because it's such a long season. We've felt the time of them, or he could be someone like a Mike Turner that is just there for the long haul because he's just such a fascinating individual. I don't know.
I have him ranking wise in more of a Nasir spot because I know how much he's in the preview, but I don't. They're getting sneakier. They get sneakier with the way that they do things. And because remember, there's a lot of footage from their seasons. The person who, of course, comes to mind is like Bachelor Fan Take, who really looks at all of those Bachelor previews and is like, it's time to look at like and really break them down and see just how much hiding they do. But I think that CBS is a little bit like they might be only picking from like the first 4 episodes. And it just so happens that they have all this backlogged footage. We'll never know, but there is enough of a focus on him that I think he's going to be around for at least up until or maybe right before the merge, and then something happens.
Next, Cassidy Clark. Cassidy Clark.
I just love Cassidy. I think she's cool.
I mean, her picture is like so badass, and honestly, I have a little crush on Cassidy, not gonna lie, just from seeing her pre-merge stuff. Like, she's very much my type. But like, tell me what your thoughts are on Cassidy. I want you to talk first because she's an end game player for me. Like, she's someone that a lot of people have as like their first few boots. I disagree, and I'll tell you.
Funny enough, Dylan, she's also an end game player for me, and the reason why is because there's nothing more enticing as a person watching reality TV than seeing someone there who wants to play the game. She was supposed to be on 41, and then the pandemic happened. She clearly has a lot of confidence in herself. She is in an industry as a designer where you need to work well with others. You need to be creative. You need to navigate around with not just your brain, but also your personality. She looks deceptively strong. And she's on a team with other people who don't want to stir the pot nearly as much as her. But
I disagree there. I think she's on this tribe with a lot of the pot stirrers, which is why she's
that's what I mean.
To be more
no. I think she's not going to want to stir the pot as much as others.
Much as them. Gotcha.
And I think at the end of it, she's going to be able to get rid of so much of the what's it called, of the excess and of the drama, that it's going to carry her far, because she's going to be looking to make relationships with people outside of her own tribe, which is going to be so important come the merge. I love her. I think she's going to be great.
Her and what's her name that we just talked about? Janine kind of give off, like I said, that young, like, millennial Gen Z vibe of, like, we're cool and hip, but also, like, Janine seems a little bit more like in your face, like, I'm young and I'm gonna show you old people. And Cassidy seems more of like the, I'm just living life. I love life, man. Like, she almost seems to have a little like hippie mentality, like, and no reverence for Mother Nature and all her beautiful beings. And, like, sounds cliche, but my mom is freaking incredible. Like she's just like got a cool vibe to her. Like, she's got a vibe, and like I'm getting that vibe.
Very excited about.
She says she's groovy. That's her first word, and that's what describes her. And honestly, on that tribe, I think Gio is going to be chaotic. I think James is going to be chaotic. I think Ryan's going to be the strong, like, we got to work. And like we've already talked about, Lindsay as well being kind of like the very opposite of that. I think Cassie's going to be able to ride the middle. I think if she wants to get into the chaos, the blind side, she can, but she's not going to be total vanilla of like, oh, but she's the odd one out. She doesn't fit in. I think she's going to fit in really well. Her and Carla are going to team up on that tribe, and I think they're going to do very well.
I usually like when we disagree on things, but this is one that I'm very glad we agree on, because I want to see her. I really want to see her do well. She just presents as such like a, like she brings the kind of energy to a reality TV show that I adore and that I really, really seek to like see more of. So I hope that she continues to do that.
Yeah. Moving on now to James Jones, one of the hotheads I already told you about. James Jones, on paper, he's a guy who loves reading and writing. He's a chess champion. He's very smart. He went to church. He was a singer in a choir. Love that choir boy stuff. Go choirs. But the thing is, he wants to play like Russell Hantz. And everyone who's watched his seasons, and you've watched Big Brother, so you know his brother Willie Hantz. That's chaos. And he says, like, he feeds off of chaos. He says right here, I thrive and find a certain comfort in chaos. I think that's, to a degree, that's great, but also like thriving on chaos. If you're trying to stir up chaos for the sake of stirring up chaos, that is dangerous. The good thing about James is I think he's going to be strong for his tribe. The bad news about James is, like, you give him a merge, I think he's immediately a target because he's all over the place.
Yeah, one of the things that's interesting, I'm reading I read their bios on Parade, and one of the things that he mentions is how he, went from big fish, small pond to small fish, big, huge, giant pond when he went to college. And that's what I think of, where, like, you are now in a group of 18 people, 18 people
back in a small pond,
small tribes. And that screams to me that he is going to go hard and try and lead with chaos, on top of there being someone who's very chaotic. And I can just see Ryan, Cassidy, and Carla immediately being like, this is ridiculous. This is not what I'm about.
Yeah.
And
I think his chaos is going to be enough for them to want to use it for a shield a little longer. Like, I still think Lindsay's the first boot on that tribe because she's like the total, like, normal person on the tribe, which is usually the opposite. But I think once you get further in the game, like, he's going to become a liability for sure. Moving on now to Gio, who I think could also be the same thing. And he's on the same tribe. He is a 36-year-old Miami, now lives in Hawaii. He's the other Hawaii guy. He strongly dislikes laziness. Like, he's giving some pretty standard answers, but he says his favorite Survivor moment is Eric giving up immunity and getting blindsided. He also wants to play like Boston Rob and Cochran. I think he wants to play a little too hard. And that's another thing where that tribe, you have him and Ryan, who both just want to play so hard. Cassidy and Carla, who can kind of ride the middle. And then, like, Ryan, who's your more like straight man, every man. And Lindsay, who's your kind of like straight woman, every woman. I just don't know who's going to win out there. Gio gives me, of anyone, gives me Romeo vibes. He's this small gay man who, like, kind of can, like, slide under the radar. But if he wants to play too big, too strong out the gate, I'm worried he might be a sooner boot. I don't know. I think either way, he stands a better chance than someone like James, but I still don't know how far he goes because he's going to be a little bit unpredictable.
I am actually going to hold off most of my Gio thoughts until our ranking.
Okay, cool.
We won't get very far into the rankings before I have thoughts. I will tell you.
Ellie Scott, 31 years old, from Utah. Rock climbing, skiing. She likes karaoke. She's clever, perceptive, authentic. Again, very smart, very likable. You see her and you're like, I want to be your friend. She's got a cool fashion sense. She is your Chanel in the sense that like you look at this cast, she's the most like well-rounded. Like she seems like she could be everything. Great strategically, socially, physically, and maybe to a fault. Maybe to a fault where she to me is the Omer of the season. In
Right.
the fact that like she just I don't see how she doesn't make the merge. I don't see how she doesn't have like a good stance, especially with her tribe. I think her tribe's going to go to tribal a lot. I think her and Owen are going to be fine. Because
Yes.
they're on a tribe with Gabler, who's like this big character farmer man. Sammy, who's this young kid who's chaotic. Mariah, who's just visibly a little weaker. Janine, who might be playing a little too strong out the gate. I think her and Owen are going to be able to squeak by. The thing is, when she gets to the merge, is she going to be too much of a threat to where, like, I don't know if she's going to be able to manage her threat level because she says she has the natural ability to lead. If she's a leader, though, of a dominant alliance, this is the Shan. This is the Omer. I just see her getting that 7th, 8th place boot because of that. And I think she could win if she gets to the end, but can she get to the end? It all depends on how well the other players are and if they're on to her, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I like Ellie a lot. I like her
a lot, yeah.
I like her a lot. I think that she presents the winning package of Survivor, God willing that she's able to make it that far to the end. But because of just some things that I'm thinking in terms of pre-season ranking, I think there are going to be people who understand how much of a threat she is, and they're going to need to take her out. And then they concoct something in order to do that. But I think that Ellie, because she speaks so highly of herself as a leader, which is important, you've got to understand that you're a leader in order to be the leader. She's got to make sure that those who she's leading don't see her as a threat. They see her as a necessity. And I hope that that's the case.
Yeah. Now moving on to Dwight Moore. And before you make fun of his name, because it sounds like the guy from The Office, he says his pet peeve is someone making a reference to The Office within 2 seconds of learning his name, which I just did, and I'm sorry. But he says he wants to play like Wendell. That's the vibe I'm getting. He's just seems very well-rounded, very likable. You just seem approachable, but also like, I want you on my team to win challenges. He's a grad student, so he's smart. He is young. He's 22, which could show a little bit of naivete. Some people have said they think he's like the JD of the season. I disagree, but he seems very likable. And I just think he's very well-rounded, but not to the sense of Ellie where he's going to be a threat. He's more of like the well-rounded, like I want him in my alliance, but I'm not necessarily worried he's going to beat me, if that makes sense.
Right.
What do you think?
I really, really like Dwight, and I'm going to leave it at that until our ranking.
Okay, great. Moving on now to... Oh, wait, that's it? Okay, so there we go. So there we go. Breaking down the tribes, though, we have the Coco tribe, which of course is here. It's James, it's Lindsay, I'm trying to learn these names. Ryan, it's Gio, it's Carla, and it's Cassidy, our girl Cassidy. And then the Vesey tribe, you have, is that Dwight? Yes. You have Dwight, you have NECA, you have Cody, you have, who is that? Justine? Yeah. Oh, no, that's Noelle. Then you have Jesse, and then you have Justine there. And then, of course, the Baca tribe, where you have, who is this? Who is that? Oh, that's Ellie. That's Ellie. I'm doing this on the cuff. Gabler. That is Mariah. That is Owen. That is Janine. And that is Sammy. So now I'm going to pull up the picture again.
All right.
And this is going to be fun to see if I can remember their names and faces as we do this. 18th place, first boot. I've kind of let it on. Now, here's the thing. I think the yellow tribe right here in the middle is going to be a disaster. They're just the weakest ones on paper. But I just think, remember, Ua was not the weak tribe at the beginning of 41.
No.
It was Evie, Xander, and Tiffany's tribe. Then they started winning. But they got Abraham and Voce out. Abraham was the first boot that season. So I think there's going to be another tribe that's going to lose first. I think it's going to be blue. Now, the thing with blue is that you have the two people who are kind of like, I think, long term. Then you have the two people here that are going to be like chaos, kind of your characters. Then you have the strong guy. Who's the one on the outs? I think it's Lindsay. Lindsay's my first boot prediction because so many people are putting her in their final threes. I want to be a bit of a contrarian.
Okay.
I'm going to put her at 18th because I just think of that tribe, she's kind of like the easy boot. And I think early on, yes, Gio and James may stir up chaos, but I think in a game where like there's so much left to play, sometimes the first boot can be a safe boot, kind of like Abraham was. So that's my pick for 18th. Lindsay. Who's your 18th?
So I'm in agreement with you, not on the person,
But on the tribe.
on the tribe. I think that even though yellow might be a little weaker, I don't think they go to tribal first. I think the blue team goes to tribal first.
Who's your 18?
And here's why I think it's not Lindsay. Because I think that Lindsay is while she might be the odd woman out, I think that I can see Ryan, Cassidy, and Carla coming together. Lindsay in the middle, kind of wherever. But I think they're more likely to take Lindsay than James and Gio. I think James and Gio are going to lead with so much chaos that it's just, and I just think one of them is going to say the wrong thing, make the wrong move, or try to play so hard that first day that they're going to be like, oh, absolutely not.
So who's your 18th? Is it which, James or Gio?
It is Gio.
Oh,
I think Gio is going to play too hard, too fast. It's going to take him out. They're going to be like, sorry, dude, that's just how it goes. And he's gone. I get immediate first boot vibes from him. If you want my 17th, I will say my 17th is James for pretty much the same reason. But I think there's more merit in a strategist like James than there is in someone who just loves pure chaos like Gio.
Okay. So my 18th, I said, is Lindsay. My 17th, I think that's when this tribe starts to lose. But I think immediately these four kind of come onto these two as like the two weakest. But I could see these two making a big move. And this is kind of like the Voce boot, where I think it kind of is the unexpected turn. And I think Sammy is the first boot from that tribe. So Sammy's my 17th because I really think the easy boot is not necessarily going to be the one taken. I think they're going to try to flip it on someone who maybe could win some challenges later on, but is also a little bit more unpredictable. And because this tribe just seems like the train wreck that would vote out one of their strongest members first, physical strongest members first. And that's why they're going to keep losing, because next in 16th and 14th, I have more people from this tribe. But that's my 17th. Who's your 16th?
At 16th, I also have people from this tribe as well.
Yellow.
I've started, and my 16th, my 16th is Mariah.
Okay, that is my 16th as well, because I think they're going to lose again, and I think they get rid of her because then she becomes the easy threat.
And I'll let it lead into, we can talk about kind of both of them, because 15th is Sammy for me. The only reason it's a little bit higher than Mariah is because I think there might be more value in getting rid of Mariah on a tribe level, just so you take her out early enough that she doesn't get to the end and start posing a social threat for people. Sammy may be a bit more physical than her, and therefore you want to keep him around a little bit. But I don't think that there's much hope for the both of them in this regard. I know that that's a little like sour and a little somber, but I just don't see them going too far overall, especially with other people in their tribe being much more of a threat.
Yeah.
Or sorry, much more, but with other people on their tribe being
I know, easy boot.
Yeah.
So 15th, I have NECA, only because I think that tribe is going to lose at least once, and she's like the easy like boot of that tribe. I would not be surprised if it's Noelle, but I think NECA is like my safe. Like if there's going to be a pre-merge boot from the red tribe, which I don't think is going to lose often, it's going to be her, because I think the guys are going to be too valuable. I think, as I said, Justine's going to be the least concerned. It's going to come down to NECA and Noelle, and I think NECA is just the person that's easiest to boot, considering they're going to be so strong.
What are we, for obviously we don't know 100%, but for the sake of this, what are we saying the merge is at for like
I'm going to say 12. Like I'm going to say the first 6 boots are pre-merge. Or
okay,
6
that's fine.
I'm cutting it off at 12th is the merge boot.
Okay, great. 12th is the first person in jury.
That's my guess. Or
okay,
11th.
I'm just we may be incorrect, but I'm just going with that.
Yep. Who's your 15th?
I already told you 15 was Sammy.
14, sorry.
14 is actually, oh man, I can't believe it. 14's Gabler.
Okay, yeah. And
I don't
why
really,
is that?
I flip-flopped him and Janine quite a bit. The only reason I don't have Gabler higher is because I just think that he's very likable. And he's between like Ellie, Owen, he can do everything Owen can do, but probably not nearly as good. Janine and Ellie banding together to say like, all right, well, Sammy's gone, Mariah's gone. We're not going to get rid of Owen because he can help us out. It's time to get rid of Gabler. And I just think he's going to have a harder time connecting with the rest of that tribe. He goes out early, and it's unfortunate.
Well, I have Yellow losing again as well, and I have Janine going there just because I think her steam is going to run out eventually in the pre-merge. I just don't see her making the merge if that tribe is much of a train wreck. And I do think Owen and Ellie, if they're working together, are going to choose Gabler because he's a little bit more, we can string him along than Janine is.
Right.
Who is your 13th? The
13th
last person
is,
before the merge.
So 13th is NECA. I think the red tribe's got to lose at least once, and she's it. And that's just kind of the end of it.
Yep. In 12th and 13th for me is James because I think he's gonna cause some chaos, but I don't see I see the yellow tribe losing a lot more. If blue loses again, though, I still think Gio has the Romeo mentality of being able to still slide under the radar, whereas James is going to be a little bit more. I like chaos. I'm a chess guy. He's also a chess guy. If they hear that he's smart, they might get rid of him. So he's my last boot before.
Interesting. It's interesting. We have pretty much the same exact pre-merge boot list,
except for
one person.
Gabler, Gio. Yeah, I have Gabler and Gio in my merge, and you have Lindsay and Janine in your merge.
So sorry, save for 2, but then also we've mixed up a couple of different people, like in the ranking as well. Like they're not leaving in the exact. So I'm very curious. Who's your 12?
12 is Noelle for me because I think once you get to the merge, she's just kind of like she's the obvious threat the next time she's vulnerable after NECA's gone. So whether or not that's red losing again or the merge, I think she's just going to be a visible threat. She's likable, yeah, but like I just think enough people are going to be threatened just by, and it sucks. It sucks, but that's just the reality. So
at 12, I finally have Lindsay. She's my first jury boot. She really, truly becomes, I know we were saying that she's kind of the odd woman out. This is when I think she truly becomes the odd woman out against who I have left. I don't think there's going to be a lot of people who kind of want to keep her around. She might not be as tight in with her own alliance, and there may be probably, just with who I have left, every tribe, aside from Red, who has 5, still has at least 3 people in it, and because of that, they're going to be tight-knit. She's the easy to get rid of. She's gone, first boot of jury.
Yeah. 11th, I actually have Cody because I think they're going to start to take shots at the red after that. You're going to get Noelle out, and I think the next boot is to go Cody because he's the guy with the tattoo. He's kind of fun, and like he's someone that I don't think everyone's going to be threatened by to beat them, but he's also someone that I think a lot of people are going to be threatened to like not want to keep around because he has like the charm, the personality, and because I just don't think he has a chance of winning the game. I'm putting him lower in the fact that like I think he's going to be out at some point. I don't think he's making it to the end, so like this is where I'm going to stick him just because I didn't really know where to put him, and I think he's going to be a little chaotic, even if his chaos is not prompted like James or Gio's. Like I think he's still going to be chaotic in some sense. So who do you have at 11th? 11th.
I have someone in the red again. I think they are going to have to take shots at them eventually, but I actually think it's going to be Jesse. Jesse's got the story. The more people he tells about the story, the harder it's going to be to want to keep him around until the end because you risk keeping him. There, and he's clearly got a way about him where he's able to navigate around people and around things. So I think that they're gonna finally see that and be like, too much, dude. It's time to go.
All right. At number 10, that's where I have Gabler, just because this is kind of around the Nasir boot of like, if
is it really?
Yeah,
because that's where I have Janine.
Oh, great. Yes. So our 10th and our 14th switch. Because I think that's like kind of the point where it's like, okay, this guy is like likable. He doesn't really fit in. He might be like an easy boot or maybe an idols play. He gets idled out. I don't know. I don't see him being an end game person, but also I just think he's so featured in that promo that he's going to make it at least the halfway point. He was so middle of the road that I stuck him right here in the middle of the road at 10.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same for me with Janine. It's very much the same. Like that's kind of like you said before, where that's where her steam, I think, runs out. She gets overplayed, whatever it is. And that's kind of just like, all right, dude, it's time to go.
At 9th, I have Ryan because I think this is kind of where you see he's a strong guy, let's get him out mentality of like, yeah, he's going to be winning some challenges. And I think that's why he could stick around a few weeks in the merge. But there's a point where you're going to see him as like him and Dwight and some of these other people as like the biggest threats. And it's going to be about who has the best social game. And I think people like Dwight, like Owen, despite being challenge threats, are going to be able to manage a strategic better than Ryan is. So.
At 9, I have Noelle. I think it's going to be her time. I think it's going to suck. I can't believe she even got this far in my ranking. I'm very hopeful that she gets far enough in my ranking, or just in the overall ranking, because I think she's going to be such a good player and so exciting to watch. But I just don't see them letting her go much farther than that. So I think that's the end of the line.
At 8th, only because I think because they're going to be the strongest team pre-merge, I think a lot of red is going to go early merge, and I think that's where I'm going to put Justine, just because I have no idea what to do with her. So I'm putting her at 8th. I have no idea.
It's funny that you do that because I have 2 red going back to back as well, but in 8 I have Cody. I just think they're not going to really know how to navigate around him. If I'm looking at who's left in my thing, I've got Ellie and Owen still left. They're going to be tight on the yellow. I've got Ryan, Cassidy, and Carla all still from the blue. They're all going to stick together, and then they're looking at, like I said, I think, or like you said, I think Dwight's going to be able to navigate around the social of it all a lot better than Cody. And I think that Justine is going to just be, forgive me for saying so, might be so useless that she's a great goat to bring, whereas Cody still might be able to like convince a jury to vote for him. So I think they cut him there.
Yeah. So in 7th, I said this earlier, I do have Ellie. I have her in the Omer spot. This is like 7th and 6th. I don't know which one's going to be right before finale, but 7th and 6th are generally the last episode before the finale. Sometimes the finale is 6 people. Sometimes it's 5. The past 2 years, it's been 5. So this would not be the Omer spot. The Omer spot would actually be in 6. But I think she's going to come around the Shan Omer spot of like, she's the biggest threat left.
Yeah.
And she's going to make it to that final stage of the game, even though she's going to be a threat. I think her and Owen end up running things, and she just ends up getting the boot, maybe at the hands of Owen, because at this point, I do have like the 3 blue over here. I still have Gio skating by, and like these 2, which I think are going to be super consistent. And I also have Jesse and Dwight on this end, and I just think, Ellie is going to be the one that they all kind of team up to take out. So who's your 7th?
So just so you know that I'm not like playing around with it. Funny enough.
Don't show me your whole ranking.
No, it's not.
You have Owen. Okay, cool.
Owen. And pretty much for all of the reasons that you just said, I think he's the Omer, the Shan at this point, and this is when he gets Omered or Shanned. Ellie says, like, you've served me well, but if I let you go any further, you're gonna win. And she goes, sorry, and that's her move. And that's her move, and it's why I still don't think she's the winner, but I think that she gets far just before she can be the winner.
At 6th, and this is if they do decide to do a 6-person finale, I could see them being the biggest threat in the finale, or it's the Omer boot right before the finale. I think that's where Dwight's time runs out for me, because I think Dwight is such a threat that it's like, at that point in the game, also, I only have Jesse as his only person left from his tribe. I just think this is going to be a very, like, blue kind of takes it with Owen now being the last yellow, and the 4 of them are like, Dwight and Jesse are tough. Let's split them up. Dwight gets out there just before the finale, because I think Dwight is someone that they think is going to be, like, a big endgame player, because he is very well-rounded. So that's why I have at 6. Who do you have as, like, the last boot before the finale?
I have Justine. I think that what's going to happen is the people who I have left kind of all look at each other and they go, we all deserve to be at the finale, and somebody else doesn't. And I think that's really what's going to happen is I think they're going to take Justine out and go to the final 5 and fight for it. And I think that's just how that's going to end. I think it's going to be miraculous that Justine even makes it to 6. If I'm honest, we don't really know a lot about them. So I'm just kind of going off of my thoughts. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm correct. But I just can't see Justine making it to finale night.
So my number 5, this is the first boot of the finale. And there's 2 reasons I have this person here. 1, this is the last time you can use idols. So let's say I have left. I have like Jesse. Let's say he wins immunity. Let's say Owen has an idol. Let's say one of these 2 girls has an idol. I think the easy boot could be the person who's kind of like the GOAT. Because I think at times you want to bring the GOAT to the end. But we saw with Heather, the GOAT didn't make it to the end. She got cut at 4th in fire. But you also see like Romeo, let's say like Lindsay wins that final 5 immunity. There's a chance after all the idols are played, if Marianne plays an idol, if Mike plays an idol, it becomes Jonathan and Romeo could go home. That's why I have Gio in 5th. Because I think Gio is someone that I think people are going to want to string along as someone they could beat at the end. But then toward the end, he makes some crazy move that ends up losing some trust, and they just say, let's just cut him now. And the reason I put him at 5th is because his favorite move is the Eric Reichenbach move. Eric came in 5th place because he had immunity. He gave it away and got voted off by his own alliance. And I think that's going to be kind of like his path. Because like I see him making a stupid endgame move because I think he's gonna be able to slide under the radar like Romeo. He's underestimated because he's not a big strong guy and he's not overtly looking for chaos the way James is. It's just he is someone who loves some of the most idiotic moves in history. And he says he wants to be part of big moments like that. But I'm worried he's going to be on the receiving end. If Romeo had gone home in 5th, like that's the trajectory I have for Gio. Who is your 5th place first boot of the finale?
In 5th, I have Ellie. And mainly just because I think that Ellie, we keep calling her a leader. I see Ellie's like she's got no one to be the leader of anymore.
Kind of like the Lindsay thing. Yeah.
Yeah, her tribe is
Or
gone.
Ricard.
She's it. And I think that the 3 blue who I have left are going to say, like, again, sorry, man, if you get to the end, your story's too good. You got to go.
It's funny. We both have 3 blue, 1 red, and 1 yellow in our finale. I just think that's funny that the blue is going to be chaotic, but I have Gio going out in 5th. So.
I think you have a blue winner, which I will not say whether or not I do.
Yep. I'll tell you in a bit because my 4th place is the last red I have on my list, which is Jesse. I think Jesse's someone who's going to have such a good story, is going to make those relationships, get to the end, be a scrappy person who ends up coming up just short. He's someone I think people are going to be wanting to take out for a while. I could see him playing an idol. I could see him winning some comps. But then when you get to Final Four, he's a person who they put up in fire, and like someone like maybe an Owen or a Cassidy takes him out of fire. And it's going to be sad because he's going to be like a fan favorite, but I think that's where I have Jesse is right at 4th. Who's you?
I have a very similar story, but different tribe. It's Carla. I think Carla is going to be someone we want to take shots at for a very long time. Maybe burns a couple of bridges, but she's got her team behind her. I think I don't think someone on her team necessarily sends her to fire making. I think somebody else sends her to fire making with another member of her team, and she just comes up short, unfortunately.
Right. So let's recap who our final 3s are. I'm just going to go left to right. You have Dwight in your final 3. You have Ryan in your final 3, and you have Cassidy in your final 3. So 2 blues and 1 red. In my final 3, I have Owen, and I have these 2 ladies on the end. So 2 blues, 1 yellow. And you were wrong, sir, because I do not have a blue winning this game.
Wow.
I'll just, because we're at the final 3, I'll just tell you how I think it's going to go. I think these 2 are going to be working together the whole time, that they're almost going to kind of split the votes. I think Owen is our winner of the season. So Owen is someone that I've just love on paper. He's just someone that I immediately am drawn to. But the thing is with Owen is I could see him teaming up with Ellie, and I just see Ellie being the more leader. Like, I'm going to call the shots, and Owen just kind of the right-hand man sitting in the back seat, kind of the Ricard to Shan. But Ricard was just such a cutthroat player as well. Whereas I think Owen's not going to be as cutthroat as Ricard. He's just going to kind of let Ellie take the shots. Once Ellie goes, though, I think Owen can then schmooze up to like these girls and say, let's get out people like Gio or like Jesse or like Dwight, some of these bigger threats, bigger guys. But then in the end, if it's Owen sitting next to these 2 girls, I think Owen has the case. And I think Cassidy is going to come up 3rd because I think she's so like, I'm going to go with the flow. I'm such a cool free spirit. She gets vibes where people aren't going to take that seriously. And maybe she doesn't get some votes. I think Carla gets a few votes because, you know, she's an unusual type to make it to the end. I think people are going to like her and people are going to respect her. But in the end, I think Owen's going to make more moves to secure the win. So I have Lindsay Cassidy coming in 3rd, Carla coming in 2nd, and Owen being our winner. So tell me about your final 3. How do you have the final 3 going?
It's so funny because I also don't have a blue winner. I don't. I have Dwight winning. So here's how I think it's going to go. I've already talked about Ryan a little bit. I think Ryan is going to get to the end. He's going to have.
Do we both have Cassidy in 3rd?
Yes, we do. I think Cassidy's going to be a great player, but I just don't know if she's going to have anything to really back her up. She's going to have a lot of teamwork, a lot of alliance play, but that's not going to necessarily mean much against these other 2. I think that the reason Dwight wins, and I didn't really talk about Dwight in our initial thing, and it's the reason because I wanted to save it until my final winner prediction. I predicted Dwight as the winner, which means that he will probably go first.
No, I hope not.
But the thing that I like about him is that Dwight, in his parade article, it says, the 22-year-old had a journalism career at a young age that gave him the bravery to do anything. And what I think about that is, being that he is so brave, Dwight's going to make a lot of tough decisions that other people are not going to be able to make, right? We talk about how he's going to have the social navigation to kind of get himself around different things, especially being in a tribe that's very well endowed strength-wise and maybe has a lot to offer in a lot of different ways. But what others don't have over Dwight is they don't have the ability to spin a story in the way that it needs to be spun in order to keep themselves there, in order to convince the jury of the winner. What Ryan and Cassidy do not have is the prowess at the final 3 to convince people why they should be the winner. I think Dwight's already probably at this point, I mean, obviously they've already filmed, but at this point in the season, before, like on his way to day 1, probably already has, just like Taylor has her finale dress picked out, for Big Brother 24. I think Dwight has his speech planned and prepped for finale night, and that's going to make all the difference.
Yeah.
He's just not going to tell anyone about it.
Yeah, and it's funny because I have him being the last cut, like the Omer or the Shan, him and
And
Ellie, because he should be the cut then, because he's going to be a big threat, I think.
And technically,
I
have Owen as my Omer Shan as well, which is
so we're lockstep with a lot of this.
Right. Our wavelength is similar.
Yeah, to recap, like we both have these two girls from Blue going really far. I have Gio being more of a late game wild card. I have Jesse being a little bit more of a late game player, but we both have Owen and Dwight in swap positions, being either the winner or the last boot before the finale, oddly enough, or one of the last boots before the finale. We both have Gabler not going all the way like some people think. We both have James going out early.
And him swapped in different position, like in the exact same positioning.
I really like this. I like the way this is shaping up. I think our only huge differentiations are I have Gio in 5th, you have him in 18th, and I have I can't even think of another big differentiation. Maybe like
Lindsay,
you have Ryan in 2nd, I have him in 9th.
You have Lindsay in first boot, and I have her at first at merge. So we have, but even still similar.
Almost lockstep. Yeah,
she's first. Yeah.
Yeah, so naturally, Gio's going to be your winner of the season because Zach picked him to be the first boot. But that's it for Survivor. It was a long episode, almost 2 hours, because we had to cover a whole cast of Survivor, a whole cast of Amazing Race, and talk about Big Brother and Bachelorette. But the next time we see you will be a Brant Steele simulation. We're back, baby. We're going to actually film it right after this. And it's going to be a 2022 simulation using Final Threes, Big Brother Final Four, because we don't necessarily know. Turner could be the 4th place. We don't know. So we're going to put all 4 of them in, along with the Final 3 from Amazing Race, Final 3 of Celebrity Big Brother, Final 3 of Survivor 42, and all the Bachelor and Bachelorettes we've gotten in 2022. All of them will be in a Big Brother simulation. It's going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that in a couple days, maybe just like sometime in the middle of the week, maybe on Wednesday as like a hurrah. Tonight is the night that Survivor and Amazing Race start. We'll put it on Wednesday morning. And then later on in the week, after Wednesday and Thursday have commenced, after we've gotten our Final 3 for Big Brother, after we've seen our premieres of Amazing Race and Survivor, we'll be able to talk about the finale of Bachelorette, the predictions for the finale for Big Brother, the premieres of Survivor and Amazing Race, and the finale of premiere of Dancing with the Stars. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about next in 2 episodes, but our little like filler episode midway through the week will be a Brant Steele simulation, which we're going to film right after this. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time. We'll plug ourselves on the next one. It's fine. You guys know where to find us. See you later.